I sneered. Next, there's even more explosive footage. As soon as the words left my mouth, the courtroom fell completely silent, as if the air had frozen solid. The spectators put away their disdainful looks, their faces now filled with curiosity and wariness. Netizens who had been hurling insults at me, in the live stream comments quieted down, most of their messages turning to speculation, waiting for a twist. Could there really be something going on? Winter's face paled instantly, and she hugged the child in her arms tightly, her eyes darting flustredly to me before flicking quickly to Peach and Danny, who stood in the front row of the spectator seats. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't utter a single word. Peach had lost her earlier arrogance. Her brows were furrowed tightly, and sweat beaded on her palms. Danny, meanwhile, looked solemn, his eyes evasive, unable to meet anyone's gaze. I nodded at Violet, who immediately operated the equipment to project the second video onto the large screen at the front of the courtroom. The footage was a bit blurry, obviously shot secretly, but the characters' movements and expressions were still clear enough to make out. The location was exactly the hotel room near the mall that day. The camera was aimed at the slightly ajar door, through which the scene inside was visible. In the video, Peach walked into the room first, holding her child, with Winter close behind, our daughter in her arms. Both children were still crying. Winter set her daughter down gently in the crib by the bed, patted her softly, then turned to Peach. The two exchanged a few quiet words, and Peach nodded, handing her son to Winter. Instead of feeding him right away, Winter walked to the sofa in the middle of the room and sat down. Peach stood beside her, reaching up to smooth her hair, an overly intimate gesture. At that moment, Danny, who was supposed to have left the hotel, unexpectedly reappeared at the door. He didn't knock, he pushed the door open and locked it behind him. He walked over to Winter and Peach, but instead of looking at the children, he reached out and gently wrapped his arms around Winter's shoulders from behind, leaning his head close to her ear as he spoke. Winter's body tensed for a moment, but she didn't push him away. Instead, she turned her face slightly to meet his gaze, her eyes filled with an indescribable ambiguity. Peach, standing off to the side, showed no anger at all. On the contrary, she wore a strange smile. She reached out to take her son from Winter's arms, turned to the crib, and stood with her back to them, pretending to soothe the child while glancing back at the two from time to time. The scenes that followed, though not explicit, showed Danny's hand lingering on Winter's body, stroking her hair one moment, resting on her waist the next. Winter didn't resist in the slightest. Instead, she gradually relaxed, leaning into his arms, her cheeks flushed and her eyes unfocused. It was exactly the same look I had seen 6 months earlier, after she finished feeding the child. By the time the video ended, the courtroom was in complete uproar. The spectators could no longer contain themselves, chattering away, their voices growing louder by the second. Oh my god, so that's what's really going on. Did I just see that? Winter and Danny. Peach is just standing there watching. How weird is that? So Taylor wasn't overreacting. We wronged him. The disdainful glances from moments before turned to shock and disbelief. Evrion's eyes turned to Winter, Peach, and Danny, filled with contempt and disgust. The live stream comments flipped instantly. All the insults directed at me vanished, replaced by an uproar of apologies. Sorry, Taylor, we were too impulsive. We wronged you. Winter is disgusting, pretending to be a loving wife and mother while cheating with her best friend's husband. Peach and Danny are just as bad. The three of them are ridiculous. No wonder Taylor wants a divorce. I wouldn't be able to stand it either. Winter completely fell apart, holding the child. She slumped onto the plaintiff's bench and burst into heart-wrenching sobs, but she garnered no sympathy from anyone. No, that's not true, she cried, shaking her head frantically. Taylor, you faked this evidence. The video's a hoax. You edited it. You're framing me just to get a divorce. Peach panicked too. She suddenly stood up from the spectator seats, pointed at me, and shouted, Taylor, you bastard. You framed us on purpose. This video's fake. You edited it. How dare you slander us like this? Danny stood up as well, his face ashen, his eyes glaring at me fiercely, but he couldn't say a word. He knew the footage was irrefutable. No amount of excuses would change that. My father, standing in the spectator seats, had gone pale as a sheet, his body trembling slightly. He stared at the video on the screen, then at Winter, who was sobbing bitterly on the bench, his eyes filled with shock, shame, and disbelief. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but in the end, he said nothing, just sighed heavily, hung his head, and covered his face with his hands. He finally realized that the good daughter-in-law he had defended so fiercely had been hiding such absurd secrets, while he had unfairly accused his own son, even slapped him. My mother was already in tears. She walked over to my father, patted his back gently, her eyes filled with worry and guilt. When she looked at me, her gaze was brimming with sympathy. Taylor, I'm so sorry, she choked out, her voice barely audible. We were wrong to blame you. The judge banged his gavel hard. Quiet, quiet, no noise in the courtroom. The chatter died down gradually, and everyone fell silent, turning their eyes to the judge, waiting for his verdict. Violet stood up, her gaze steady as she looked at the judge. Your Honor, this video is neither forged nor edited, she said in a serious tone. We have had it authenticated by a professional forensic agency, and its authenticity and integrity are confirmed. It is admissible as valid evidence. Additionally, we have other evidence proving that Ms. Winter had an improper romantic relationship with Mr. Danny, confirming her infidelity. With that, Violet pulled out another stack of documents, handed them to the judge, and projected copies onto the large screen. These are screenshots of chat records between Ms. Winter and Mr. Danny, containing numerous ambiguous and explicit messages that clearly demonstrate their improper relationship, and the fact that they have been secretly seeing each other for a long time. These records were obtained through legal channels, and authenticated to confirm they were sent by the two individuals themselves. They are true and valid. Dense chat records appeared on the screen, dating back 6 months to the present day. The messages were unsightly. Danny called Winter baby. She called him dear, and the two arranged meetings, mostly at hotels, or when I was at work and Peach was out of the house. They mocked me in their messages, calling me stupid and slow for not uncovering their secret, laughing at how everyone was being fooled. One message, sent 6 months earlier, the day before Peach first came to our house, asking Winter to feed her son. Read, Danny to Winter, baby, tomorrow I'll have Peach bring the kid over, and ask you you to feed him, that way we can meet up. While Taylor's out, we'll have some time alone. Winter replied, okay, dear, I've missed you so much. Luckily, I have plenty of milk. I'll pretend to help Peach feed him. No one will suspect a thing. Danny wrote back, you're so smart, baby. I'll take good care of you when we meet. Another message, from 3 months earlier, when I had worked overtime late into the night and didn't come home. Winter to Danny, dear, Taylor's not coming home tonight. Come over, we can spend some time together. I told Peach to watch the kid for a bit. Danny replied, got it, baby. I'll be right there. Wait for me.